let's get into the derby chat. Fantastic stuff coming up live for you on Sky Sports. Are we looking... We'll go North London first. With the greatest respect, Kris, we'll get to the Old Firm very, very soon indeed. The two teams that are going head-to-head, with the way they've started the season, is it Spurs that perhaps need this a little bit more than Arsenal do?
Yeah, you'd have to say so. A few indifferent performances. I mean, you look at the first game of the season, Aston Villa. It took them a while to get into gear, and they obviously eventually won that. Manchester City, I know they got a point, which it's a good point, but Manchester City battered them. I mean, they only had 2 shots on goal, so we wouldn't say it was a good performance. And obviously, they lost to Newcastle. So yeah, I do believe they do need it. But if ever there was a game they could pull it right, and all that could be wiped aside, I think it was this North London game, because Spurs, in recent times, I know at the Emirates have not been very good, but in recent derbies they've done okay, to be fair.
The two sides, as we look at them going together, Kris, are they relatively similar for you in terms of quality?
Yeah, I think there's not much between them. I think the last year the Premier League table would suggest that also. You know, I know Tottenham obviously got to the Champions League final and Arsenal Europa, but you know, I don't think there's much between it. And I think for me, Arsenal hold the upper hand here because it's home advantage. Because you know, when you look over the last few derbies, you know, the home team has usually come out on top. You know, Arsenal have lost 2 since the Premier League was created. It's an incredible run, you know, at home. So it'll be a very, very difficult afternoon for Tottenham. But you know, as Darren said there, you know, Tottenham have got players that can hurt you. But I think for me, Christian Eriksen is key to the whole thing. I mean, I don't think Harry Kane looks the same player when he's not there.
Not a big fan of August, is he, Harry Kane?
He's got 2 though. He's got 2.
Getting incremental better. And obviously enjoys playing against Arsenal. When Kris mentions about perhaps the home advantage, because it is a unique place to take in a game of football, isn't it? I mean, it's not the kind of the bear pit that you would expect a home crowd to be, but obviously when it comes to the North London derby, do things get ramped up a little bit more? A little bit.
I mean, I've always said when I played in that derby, like, I wouldn't say the atmosphere was the most electric. I mean, it was always a good footballing derby, like 2 good footballing sides. I wanted to pass it, getting down, like you attack, we attack. But as far as atmospheres goes, I played a lot more hostile. But as I said, it's going to be such a great game. I mean, I do believe in what Kris was saying. I think Spurs defensively, I think they're a little bit stronger than Arsenal.
Okay.
Obviously, we saw evidence of that against Liverpool with a few silly mistakes. But I think defensively, shape, I think Spurs are better than Arsenal. But going forward, I think Arsenal now have just got as much firepower as Spurs. I mean, obviously, you look at Christian Eriksen when he's not playing, you'd have to say they lack maybe a little bit of creativity and that maybe a little bit of something special. And I'm sure Harry Kane would admit to that. When you look at Arsenal now, I mean, they left Lacazette on the bench, which I think was crazy against Liverpool. But Lacazette, Aubameyang, Pepe, I mean, that front three there, they could tear anyone apart.
Even Dele Alli as well. You know, as a striker, when you get midfielders running beyond you, the space it creates for you. You know, Tottenham are missing something right now, and as you know, as Darren said there, the pace that Arsenal have got, especially in that forward area. You know, it's interesting for me as well. I know David Luiz comes in for a lot of criticism in terms of defensive displays sometimes, but there's one thing, he can see a pass. You know, and with the pace they've got, you know, a lot of people you want to play. You know, Arsenal have been guilty of it, overplaying, but David Luiz will hit that 40-50 yard pass, and with the pace that they've got, you know, the front three could go on to anything. So you know, it will be interesting to see how both teams set up, but you know, I would be wary, you know, especially if that Arsenal front three.
I mean, for you, is that how they would set up? Do those front three start on Sunday?
I would.
Yeah,
I would.
100%. I think you've got to go there where you're at home for starters, and you've got to have firepower. I mean, I criticised Arsenal last week because I felt like a place like Liverpool, where obviously their front three are renowned for scoring a lot of goals, you need to match them firepower. And when you've got Lacazette on the bench, who I think, even though he didn't score as many goals as Aubameyang, I think he's a better centre forward than Aubameyang. I think you need to play in this North London with all firepower, Pepe, Lacazette and Aubameyang, and really take the game to them, because at the moment you'd have to say Spurs are a bit fragile.
So I mean, they're fragile defensively, but I mean, is that because, is there a stubbornness to what Mauricio Pochettino's doing with regard to who he picks in that defence from your point of view?
A little bit. I mean, I'd like to know what's going on with Vertonghen, because for me, when him and Toby play centre-half,
they really complement each other.
I think they're the best 2 centre-halves as a pair in the Premier League. And I don't think it's even close. I think them two, they know each other's games, they cover each other. And Davinson Sanchez, I think he's done OK, but you could see lapses sometimes in concentration. Even if you look at the Aston Villa game, the first goal, it goes over his head. And I think if Vertonghen and Toby's there, it doesn't happen. So what's going on there, I'd like to know. But I think...
Why do you think he has dropped them, though?
I don't even know if he's injured or something. I'd like to know what's going on, but no one seems to be saying anything, because I think he's a big miss. But the Christian Eriksen one is the big one, because when he's on that pitch, it's like everyone goes up 10%, and you just know that he's going to create something or score a goal and just change the whole dimensions of the game.
I mean, we're looking at 3 players there that are coming to the end of their contracts at this current moment in time for Spurs. You can't think that a manager of his stature, of his tactical nous, would cut his nose off to spite his face, surely?
Yeah, but I think when you've got Real Madrid there, you know, it's out there that Real Madrid want Christian Eriksen. That obviously must be playing in his mind. One, he won't be wanting to get injured in case the transfer does go through. And you can see, you know, his performances have dropped. There's no doubt about it. You know, in terms of when he has started, but there's one thing I don't think you can label: when he comes on, he makes a difference. You've seen the game against even the Aston Villa one when he came on.
Yeah,
and then straight away against Newcastle as well. Albeit they didn't score, but you know, he made such a difference.
But surely he's that good a player. I mean, we're not talking about an impact player. We're talking about a player that's been creative, consistent for Spurs.
Is you know, Mauricio Pochettino trying to prove a point that, you know, if you're not going to sign, then you need to go. And the other
does that make sense to you? I mean, such as the immediacy of football, they need to be winning games right now. If they've got any inkling about going anywhere near the top of the Premier League,
but I think even if you have any hope of keeping him, you want to play him.
Yeah.
Because he wants to feel part of it. But you know, for me, when you look at Tottenham play, they're a total different team when he's not in it. You know yourself, the runs you can make straight away when you've got somebody that picks the ball up and it doesn't even need to look. You don't even need to have any eye contact with him.
Yeah.
You go because you know he's going to find you. Dele Alli for me as well. The amount of space that he creates just be forward runs.
Yeah.
But it's not been a great start to the season for Tottenham.
Are we seeing a team that, I mean, when you talk about a team being greater than some of its parts, yes, the parts are fantastic by themselves, but as Kris is talking there, you talk about the link of Eriksen, of Ali, of Kane. These all complement each other so much that perhaps you take one of these out and it does affect either the one who's left up front on his own, not particularly finding the passes, or the passes that are finding him. Is that how it kind of triggers down the team? A little bit, yeah, because you'd have to say as well, when you throw in Heung-min Son as well and Lucas Moura, I mean, you rarely see Kane, Heung-min Son and Moura play all really well together. I mean, you look when Harry Kane was out, Heung-min Son stepped up, was brilliant. When Heung-min Son was out, we saw Lucas Moura step up, but we've not yet to see all three of them really connect. So you're probably right at the moment. They probably are a little bit disjointed. Pochettino at the moment probably doesn't really know what his best starting 11 is. Obviously due to injuries, due to obviously Eriksen's his head might be everywhere. So I think the sooner they sort that out, the better. But it's a difficult situation because you think at the end of this season they might potentially lose Toby Alderweireld, Christian Eriksen. I think Danny Rose is on Danny's last year as well. So these are three key pieces that you can't afford to lose. So do you try and get them out now and rebuild, or do you, while they're here now, use them and let them walk away for nothing? It's such an awkward situation to be in. I think it's also interesting that, you know, Tottenham has been well documented they've not signed players in the previous windows. This is the window they go into, the transfer window, and they sign players, and all of a sudden it's like, do you play this one, do you play that one? You know, sometimes a manager, it's probably not the worst thing not to make it, not to make any choices. But for me, I'll say it again, Christian Eriksen, if Tottenham are going to get anything, needs to play. Yeah. Do you think he's going to start? He needs to. I think while you've got him now, as you're saying, play him. You're not going to, if he gets injured, you have to worry about that later. These are the things you can't control. As a manager, you can't think, well, if I don't play him now and he gets injured, I might not get the money. You need him. He's one of your best players. He makes everything tick. Like, obviously, clicks. Harry Kane will say he probably loves having him on the pitch. Other players as well, because he's one of them players as well. He doesn't hide. Always offers a pass, gets on the front foot. And I said he can create something. So for me, if I've got him in my squad now, I'm playing him. What's your thoughts about Harry Kane's start to the season? Yeah, by his own standards, probably a little bit slow. Which are astronomical, really. Exactly, yeah, which is hard. But at some stage, he's going to have a dip because, listen, he's been on an upward trajectory for years and years. I mean, what is it, 2-3 golden boots, World Cup golden boot. I mean, there's nothing at the moment he's not done. So, yeah, people would say he's had a bit of a quiet season. I mean, he's still got 2 goals, to be fair to his name, so he's still up there with the goal scoring stats. But you have to look at some stage as well. He's going to need a little breather as well because he does play a lot of football. He's had the injuries and it takes time to get back to full fitness. But listen, as I said, this game is his game. He always seems to score in these games, and I'm sure it'll be no different this weekend. Well, I asked Darren earlier on about that, about having particular teams that you played well against, or you look forward to playing, or you kind of knew that you were going to go on the pitch and score. As a striker, that must be a phenomenal feeling. Yeah, it is. You know, Darren touched on it before. When you might be going through that little bad spell, you know, it's a case of when does that go around? For me, it was Dundee United. Every time I seemed to play against them, you scored. But you know, you do start to look if you go 2-3 games. I think that was the longest I ever went, right enough. But if you do start to go, you know, that 2, 3, 4, 5 games, you're like, you know, when does that fixture come around? So, you know, you're right. There is always a team where you look to, I can get back in the goal scoring sheet against them.